Welcome everyone to another Q&A session. It's a lovely day here in Eastern Canada and I'm really excited to get to all the questions that you have. I have blue sky, which makes me happy, and I hope that wherever you are, it's looking good. And so welcome to you all. And Raj, Arti, welcome. Good to, Boris, Chichava, welcome. So for anyone who is just joining for the first time, this is a Q&A session, and I really want you guys to challenge me to get your money's worth. And Shoot IT Kjell says hello. Also, please tell me where you're from. I always love to hear that. Blue sky and sun. Yes, exactly, Boris. It's a lovely day here. Thank you so much. Soulful Lens, Photo Canuck, welcome. Thanks for joining, everyone. It's really a real pleasure to have you guys. Guntars. And interesting, where I live, it's a province of Canada, and it's called New Brunswick. It's on the East Coast, and we still have lockdown, but we're allowed to be with one other family. So that would be my brother's family. So we can now, have a barbecue together, which we did, which is really nice. And I hope that wherever you guys are from, that your lockdown situation, even though it is wise and makes sense, but you still have some form of communication with friends and family. And if this is it for your day, then I'm honored to be a part of that. Welcome, my Indian friends. Okay, good to see you all. Hi, Mark from the UK. Richard Ferrant, 58. Excellent, good to see you all. So with regards to family life is good. Yes, excellent, Boris. That's perfect. And so I just had hi, Mark from Zaragoza, España. Excellent. Welcome. I haven't been there. I desperately want to. I'm looking forward to when we can travel again. By the way, just for fun, is there any location that you guys want to visit after the travel bans are lifted? If so, then I'd love to hear from you. I just noticed you look like my English teacher. Shahir, what was your English teacher's name? Maybe we're related somehow. Pong Pong Fruit Lover, what a great name. Welcome. Now, with regards to my first question that I didn't get done yesterday, there was actually quite a few left over. Okay, Boris, Mark, tell me about autofocus and manual focus, which is better and why? Yes, I suggest when you're doing street photography, weddings, travel photography, sports, you use autofocus. If you're doing, that would be called a dynamic subject matter. So anything that's moving, then you would use autofocus. If you are photographing something that's stable, or we would call it static, then manual focus is fine. However, autofocus works 90% of the time anyway. However, landscape photographers sometimes like to do their own manual focus. Definitely, if you're doing flower photography, macro photography, or close-ups, you want manual focus. And also, you always want manual focus when you're photographing in low light, very low light, because the camera and lens combination may not be strong enough or powerful enough to activate the focus properly. And a lot of people, they find out that their lens is going zzz, 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 in and out because it can't reach that focus, and that's because it's too dark, or the subject matter has no definitive or defining features like texture or contrast. Autofocus relies on contrast and texture in order to see. So if you're looking at a blank wall, blank white sheet, most likely it's not going to work. Now there are advances in autofocus, specifically pro cameras have really advanced pixel focusing and a whole bunch of technical stuff like that. However, that's what I usually advise. When you have a moving subject, go to autofocus. When you have a stable or still subject, you can afford the time to do manual focus. However, if you're getting into portraiture, like studio portraiture, or any portraiture actually, you still get better results probably by using autofocus, but setting your autofocus to eye detection. and that's eyeball detection. And it's really clever, and most DSLRs have that. The DSLR or mirrorless will look for an eyeball, both human and pet, by the way. I think some cameras have dedicated pet autofocus, and it will focus on the eyeball. Now, even further, which is really cool, is some cameras have left or right eye priority, or maybe closer eye priority. So if I turn my head this way slightly, this eye is closer to you or the lens than this eye, only by, what, a couple millimeters. However, the camera will know that and will focus on the eye that's closer to the lens. This is called eye detection autofocus. And if you want to know if your camera has it, just do a Google search, put in the make and model of your camera, and type in eye detection ? Excellent question, Alessander. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Let's see what I got here. Hello from Costa Rica. Welcome. Do you know Freeman Patterson, photographer from NB? Says SJPATAP. Yes. Yes, I do. Freeman Patterson's books are what inspired me as a young photographer to get into nature and landscape photography. And then his book called Odysseys helped me expand into sort of conceptual fine art photography. So yes, and I've met Freeman a number of times, and he's definitely an icon in the history of photography, especially color, because he's done so much great work in color. And some really cool, like in the early days before digital, he was doing amazing multiple exposure work with film and the coolest stuff. And even now, it still stands alone. It's so Odysseys is the book I would suggest by Freeman Patterson. If anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, he's an iconic photographer from my neck of the woods here in New Brunswick. And yeah, you can get his books on Amazon probably. Okay, I would love to know more about manual focus in Canon 200D Mark II. Yes, so like I was saying, I'll just give a brief rundown. You want manual focus when you're doing close-ups, when you're doing flower photography, when you're doing macro photography, when you are photographing at dark, and when you're photographing a scene that doesn't have much contrast. Now, if anyone doesn't understand how autofocus works, the primary autofocus mechanism, there's a couple different ones, but the primary one for most, what would you say, consumer version cameras, is that the camera is looking for texture in the scene. So take a look behind me. You can see I have a lattice wall, or sorry, a deck, what do you call it? Deck wall, I guess, or whatever it's called. And the camera would look at that and see texture and pattern, and the autofocus would have no problem picking it up. Now, if we do something different, this is my Japanese tea, what do you call it? Tea tin. But if I asked autofocus to focus in here, and I put this really close to the lens so that only this was covering the whole scene, my autofocus would fail. And the reason being is because there's no texture or no pattern. It's just blank. And the autofocus requires texture or pattern. Now, it's true, again, more expensive cameras and more expensive lenses will be able to pick that up. But because most of us have consumer or prosumer gear, that's what's going to happen. So that's where you're going to switch to manual focus. Really good question. Okay, let's see what we have here. Hello from Vegas. Welcome. Okay. Photography, Devon. I haven't replied to you yet, but I am going to right after this. Sorry about that. Boris Chava. Mark, thanks. Best man. Good morning from San Diego. Me too. I went to Chile and Argentina with Freeman. Oh, good. And took his courses. That's excellent. Yeah, Freeman's courses are well known. Mark Fowler. Good to see you, Mark. I'm going to give you a wave. I hope all is well. About 20 kilometers away from me, unless you're up north. Okay, welcome everybody. If you're just joining, we're doing a Q&A session, and leave your questions below in the question mark icon, or if it's a little bit longer, feel free to ask your question in the comments section. Okay, what bridge camera would you recommend for beginners? Yes, I do recommend the Fujifilm X-T200. And the reason why I suggest that is because it's inexpensive. It comes with a good kit lens, in fact, a really good kit lens. And it is small, lightweight, and you have the advantage of an incredibly good sensor. It's extremely good, in fact. And the reason I know this is because I went to Italy. By the way, if anyone's writing notes or can remember this, if you want to see the quality of a kit lens that shocked me, I'll be honest, if you go to my YouTube page, Mark Hemmings Photography School, and just scroll down to, I don't know, maybe 6 or 10 videos earlier, you'll see my review on the Fujifilm X-T30, and it was in Italy. And all the photos were taken with that kit lens, I think. So check that out. And that's why I suggest that you get that, because it's going to come with the 15, it's called the 15 to 45, I believe, is the Fujifilm kit lens with that X-T200. That's my advice for you. Great question. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Scrolling. Not yet north on Friday. Okay, Mark. Well, happy travels up north. Beard and this 100 years of glasses class. That's awesome. And Boris, by the way, you have a great look, and I love your mustache, by the way. And if I can actually get to your level of mustache excellence, then I will be all set. So thank you, Boris. I appreciate that. Live to be free, welcome. We're doing a Q&A session. If you've just joined, feel free to ask any questions that you want, and I'm happy to answer them. Sekar, welcome. And I also have a couple of questions that I didn't get to yesterday. And one of them was about the camera bags that I use and what I do love. And this was asked a couple days ago, so this is old news if you were on this a couple days ago. But Wotancraft, Wotancraft. Wotancraft is the camera bag manufacturer that I love, and you can find them online, and they have a really good, it's not that they have a partnership with Fujifilm, but a lot of Fujifilm users use their gear because it's really good for street photography, it's good for travel, it's good for urban. They look good. They are very cool looking. And you can find a review that I did on Wotancraft camera bags at my YouTube, Mark Hemmings Photography School. So check that out. And also my other one, which is my favorite, is the sfbags.com. And if you check them out, they have a wonderful collection of really good bags. And their company name is called Waterfield. That's Waterfield Designs, and that's sfbags.com. Okay. Boris, maybe good idea to make a workshop in Georgia. I would love to. Yeah, so by the way, I just wanted to make mention that I usually do about 4 or 5 photo workshops each year in different countries, and I still have them planned. If you want to join me, feel free to check out markhemmings.com, and you'll see the list of locations that I have for 2020 and 2021. Of course, the 2020 ones will be canceled if we, as the world gets over the COVID. So we will see. But the locations that I'm planning are Jerusalem, Mexico, Japan. What else? Oh, there's a whole bunch. They escape me right now, but check them out. And Boris brings up a good point. If anyone has a camera club in their city or country and they want a week-long photo workshop, I am available. You just have to, it's very, very simple. You just gather your friends and make it a business for yourself. Maybe you guys can make the money. You just hire me to come over, pay my expenses and a small honorarium, and I am happy to do workshops that you guys plan out for your specific location. I'm very into that, and I've done it before, and it works well. Okay. Deep Patel, welcome, my friend. For those who've just joined, question and answer session. What would you say is the best free editing app? Yeah, I would say Lightroom CC mobile. And the reason being is because it's very, very good at editing photos. The colors are excellent. It has a great ability to adjust anything. Specifically, I find that a lot of apps don't do well with the most basic color temperature adjustments. That would be the blue and the yellow. But Lightroom CC does a fantastic job of the blue and yellow adjustments. It's free. Now you can get an upgrade, and that upgrade will cost you per month. However, you don't need to. And besides, you could try the upgrade, which I think is only $8 or $7 or $8 a month for the app. And if you don't like it after a month, just cancel. It's really low risk. Okay. GJXLO. So I've been using the technique where you point the AF point at the shoot you want, hold down the shutter halfway, and then shift to compose that I want to take the shot. Seems to not work. Advice. That's strange because that should work. The only thing I can think of is that someone set up back button focusing for you. If that's the case, then your focusing would be on a back button that you would hit with your thumb. Now, if no one has done that to your camera, and you are sure that you're the only owner, you're the only user of that camera, and you do not have back button focus, then yes, it should work. There's no reason why it wouldn't. And you have the EOS 90D. It's, there's no reason why. So if anyone is wondering what we're talking about, is to activate focus, we press the shutter button halfway down, which focuses on an object. And then we move our composition or our camera slightly to get the perfect composition if our subject matter is not dead center. And then we press even harder we press fully to actually take the picture. Now, there may be something going on that, and it could be that your camera is set to AFC. Now, I don't know if this is the problem, but what I'm going to get you to do is look on the front of your lens, on the front of your camera, and I can't be sure if it's where it is on the 90D, to be honest, but I would like you to switch from AFC to AFS, okay? And if you see that, if it was on C, that's continuous, and that could sometimes screw up what you're trying to do. So maybe you could actually write back again in the comment section below and tell me, if you have your camera nearby, if that actually helps, okay? That's the only thing I can think of at this moment, because otherwise it should be working perfectly. Okay, throw out questions, everybody. I'm happy to hear them. I would love to join you, Mark. Hopefully COVID-19 soon will end. Yes, exactly. It's if we want to look on the bright side, and I totally feel heartbroken for those who have had family members who have died, of course, and who are very sick. Bright side, well, more family time. It's really good. I have two teenagers, and it's good for me to spend more time with them because I do travel a lot. And things like this, I never would have thought of doing live Q&As each day with you all if I wasn't here. And so there's a lot of, in the midst of tragedy, a lot of blessings that we should be very thankful for. Nicely put. Okay, excellent. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, new people. We're doing a Q&A session. Anything, editing, photo, apps, iPhone. I know a little bit about Android, not much, but I'm happy to help out. Okay, Raj, RT. If we need to remove an object from the pic taken, can it be done using Lightroom CC mobile app? Yes, but it's very, very, very hard. I don't even bother, to be honest. So what I do, it's a great question, by the way. There's a little up arrow. It's called the share button in Lightroom CC. If you're using Lightroom CC mobile app, which is what you are, Raj, then what I want you to do is to download the app called Adobe Photoshop Fix. That's F-I-X. In fact, everybody, this is not just for Raj RT, this is for you all. The Adobe Photoshop Fix and Adobe Photoshop Mix. That's M-I-X for the one, and the other one's called F-I-X, Fix. What I'd like you guys to do is download both of them. They're free. And Raj RT, all you need to do is get your picture the way you want to, and then when you're ready to delete or clone stamp or heal some part of your photo, you're going to press that share button. And you will be able to open your picture in Adobe Photoshop Fix. And when you go into Photoshop Fix, it'll do it automatically. You'll erase that thing. Let's just say that I wanted to erase this pole behind me right now. Then in Lightroom, I would go to up arrow, share arrow, go to Photoshop Fix. I would erase this pole. And then really conveniently, at the very top of your screen, you're going to see something that says Save and Return to Lightroom. This is the advantage of the Adobe Creative Cloud. It's very clever. So what it is, it's a workflow that doesn't require you to leave the Adobe ecosystem. You're still, in a sense, working within this loop within the Creative Cloud, so it's a seamless interaction between Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop Fix. And then when you press that little Save and Return to Lightroom, you're going to see that new picture pop up within your Lightroom collection, and it's going to be there as a new photo. And you'll be all set. It's really quite clever, and it'll help you a lot. Excellent question. GJXLO, you're correct. Had it on AI focus instead of one shot. Thanks, of course. So just to explain what happened there, if you by mistake have your autofocus on continuous, and that would be AFC instead of AFS, then what's going to happen is it's going to be a little bit harder for you to maintain your focus when you have to recompose. Okay, so just in case we have some new people who didn't get that a few minutes ago, let's just say that my T is off-centered, which it is. So if I just focus, I'm going to focus on the T. I'm going to put my index finger halfway down on the shutter button to get the focus. But then I'm going to move the camera slightly so that the T remains on the side. And then I'll take the picture. And what that does is it locks the focus on the T, which is exactly what I want. Now, if you have, by mistake, you're focusing on AFC, autofocus continuous, which is for sports, then it's going to be a lot harder to deal with. So always make sure that you're on AFS, at least as your default to start out your day in photography. Then if you encounter fast-moving objects like sports or street photography, like taxis zooming by or whatever, then you can switch to AFC. But just make sure you always switch back to AFS so you don't have that problem. Okay, John McKinley, welcome. Abby Sheck, welcome. We're doing a Q&A session, and feel free to ask any question that you want. And I would love to be challenged. I love actually with questions that I don't know, and I will tell you if I don't know. Okay, let's see what we have here. Photo Canuck, just received my macro filters for my 50mm prime lens. Excellent. Having troubles manual focusing on an object with my D750. Any tips? Yes, so if you're having trouble with manual focusing, it mainly has to do with the fact that the perimeter of macro lenses are not always super high quality. Now this is not a fault of macro filters. It's just the way that magnification glass or a magnifying glass works. Its center of sharpness is a perimeter, is the center, like a center circle of sharpness. And it may be the case that you're trying to focus on something that's off-center. And if that's the case, it's a little bit tricky. So what I advise is to make sure you're at f8 or f11 to take the picture, and that will actually increase the apparent sharpness of your entire picture. That would be the perimeter as well. But make sure that when you're doing your autofocus, your manual focus, that your subject is dead center, because that's going to have a clearer image for you. And then you can recompose later, and the value of that is because you're doing manual focus. You can focus first, then recompose so that your main subject is on the left or right side of your picture. Another thing you should consider is that your focusing tool, the focusing tool on the back of your screen allows for magnification. So a lot of people don't know this, is that they focus through the eyepiece, which is great. However, if you're having trouble with manual focusing, what I advise that you do is try focusing via live view. Now, live view is similar to video, where you can actually see your subject matter very simply and very easily on the back of your screen. It's not exactly the same as video, but it appears to be the same. It's called live view, and most camera manufacturers have it. And when you're in live view, you can press a magnification button to really zoom in to see in real time exactly where and how you need to focus on that tricky focus object. Okay? So give that a try. You're running a live view and you can zoom in. Besides, you can actually zoom in as well when you're looking through the eyepiece. It's just a little bit more difficult because it's a smaller space, especially for people who have eyeglasses. I hope that helps. And please, if that didn't help, feel free to get back to me. Okay. Boris asks, what tea is that? So this is the standard run-of-the-mill 4 o'clock. Everyone knows that, I think. But it's their Indian chai. Now, here's the thing. I know that I have some Indian friends right now watching, and I desperately want real Indian tea. I want to be in India and to smell the spices and to get tea from anywhere in India. I miss it so much. This is such a poor substitute, but it's all I have at the moment. Thank you, Boris. Thank you for that great interspersed moment of nostalgia. Okay, Mariano, how do you get your inspiration? My inspiration comes a lot from looking at other people's work. And I usually do that on Instagram, mainly because I find that Facebook is not really photo friendly, and there's quite a few other photo platforms, but Instagram seems to be a really good platform for photography. Plus, I look at magazines a lot. And especially when I'm traveling, I love to look at what commercial and advertising photographers are doing. And I can do that through billboard signs or magazines or whatever. But it's magazines usually and Instagram. And what I was saying before, which is critical, is that whenever we gather inspiration from Instagram, it's very important that we don't fall into any emotional bear traps of feeling low because your photos are not nearly as good as the other person. So before you go onto Instagram, I suggest this, is that you do a preemptive strike on feelings of jealousy by saying to yourself that I'm going to go into Instagram primarily for the reason of getting inspiration. And I'm not going to feel less than. I'm not going to, look at a subscriber count and feel bad that I have less people. That's all meaningless. What you want to do is pull as much inspiration that you can from other people so that you get your own style. And then when you have your own style, you're still pulling from other people because they have perspectives that you don't have. Again, it's so critical that we never fall into that trap of feeling subpar because we see so many great photos on Instagram. Keep in mind that one thing is that usually you have super edits on the ones that are super popular, the ones that get millions of likes and so on. Well, a lot of them are really jacked up in Photoshop, and I have no problem with that at all. However, in my world, as a street photographer and a travel photographer, I do very, very minimal amount of editing. So all you have to do is just say, you know what, I'm going on, I'm going to get inspiration, but I'm going to stay positive. I hope that helped. That was a long answer, but that was a great question too. Picture base, welcome. Can you tell us more about the rule of thirds, how to use it? Yes, certainly. So just do a rule, even vertically, but mostly horizontally. Just envision a tic-tac-toe grid. You're going to place that tic-tac-toe grid on your screen. By the way, you can input it you can forcibly tell your camera to place the tic-tac-toe grid on your camera. And then there's two ways to go about it. So all we need to do is just envision right now, if you will, let's just say that we have an ocean and a orange setting sun, an orange sky with a setting sun. Okay? There's nothing, no land. It's just pure ocean and that setting sun. What we could do is that lower one-third horizontal space is where we put the water. Then the upper 2/3 horizontal space is where we put the sky. This is a classical landscape rule of thirds scenario. Okay, let's also do the opposite. We could also angle our camera down a bit and have 2/3 water. That's 2/3 along the horizontal, and 1/3 would be the sky and the setting sun. These are perfectly good ways to do it. But that's not all. That's a landscape. And of course, you can do these in any genre. But what about the verticals? Well, I love using the rule of thirds, vertical lines, the left or the right, when I'm dealing with street photography. So if someone's walking through a picture space and I capture them, I will usually place them on one of the vertical thirds, either the left or the right, depending on how I feel. Now, if you, let's just say that you have a person walking in front of you, walking past you, and you photograph them. Because they're walking past you, it doesn't really look so great to have them in the middle of the frame. It looks better if they are walking into the frame where there's more space in front of them so that they would be on the vertical third, either left or right, depending on which way they're walking. Okay, so that's how I use the rule of thirds, and it works great. And I still use the rule of thirds every day when I'm out photographing. It's an established principle. It goes way back to Aristotle, and so it has a long history, and it's a very good one. Excellent question. Lab 35, welcome. And for all the new people, just let me know where you're from. I always love to hear what country or city. Also, what are your thoughts on getting a full frame lens and using that with an APS-C body? Want to get the 70-200 2.8, but expensive. And I've heard some say it doesn't do as well on a crop sensor. Okay, so my experience is that Nikon does very well by using a full frame sensor on their APS-C camera bodies. In fact, it's flawless. And a real value, of course, is that you can potentially get a better quality image because an APS-C size sensor only reads a certain amount of the lens capacity. So let me rephrase that. When we have a full frame camera and a full frame lens, 35 millimeter, what happens is that sometimes if the lens is not expensive, or if it's a cheaper lens, the perimeter of your picture may be a little bit soft. It may not have that sharpness that you're looking for. And while this is not so big an issue for most photography, it's not as good for it's not as good for architecture and landscape because you want sharp perimeters. That would be the edges of your frame. Now, what happens though is that when you use that full frame lens, but you place it on a smaller APS-C camera, you're actually avoiding that problem of having the potentially soft perimeter. It's really quite good. Essentially, your camera is only getting information from the sharpest point or the sharpest area of that lens. So I would tend to say the exact opposite. I think you could potentially get a better shot with your plan of having a full frame lens on your APS-C camera. Now, all I need you to do, just so that you don't waste money, because I said that you can do that, is just, I don't know what camera you're using, to be honest, so just make sure that you have full compatibility and that your APS-C camera will indeed work with that 70-200. And if you have full compatibility where the electronics speak to each other, then you're all set. I would definitely do it. In fact, I have done that before because in the past I've used so many different cameras. I've used the 7D by Canon, and that's a APS-C size. And I used a full frame lens on it, and it was no problem. Excellent question. Okay, Nabil, welcome. Good to see you. Sunny day finally. Yes, I know, it's great. I went out for a 21-kilometer run this morning, and I'm doing half marathon training. I've done marathons and ultra marathons in the past, but these days I'm really just enjoying the half marathon. Get my times up, and I've done 4 half marathons in the last 10 days. So I'm enjoying this weather. Picture Base, Habit of Seeing, that's a great name, by the way. Bridget, welcome. If anyone's just joined, love to hear from where you're coming from, what country or city. And please ask Andres, my friend, good to see you. And I'd love to hear from where you're coming from, all of you. So please let me know. And it's fun. Ask your questions. Hi, Mark. Rodrigo from New York here. Again, thanks for doing this. So much fun. Any tips for taking amazing sun star photos? Yeah. So are you referring to the, what do we call them here? Are you talking about the perimeter that goes around the sun or the moon certain times of the year? If that's what you're asking, please, maybe you could just clarify that in the comment section below. Oh, I know what you're talking about. I'm so sorry. Yeah, go to F22. F22 will do it. So the reason being, by the way, if anyone's wondering what we're referring to, is that when landscape photographers love to do this, by the way. They love to include the sun in their landscape photo, in their scene, and that sun has a brilliant star effect. It's really quite cool. But how do you get that? Well, it's all because of something called aperture blades. Those are the blades that are in your lens that contract and expand and make your aperture wide and aperture small. So if you go to f22 or f32, depending on your lens, essentially the highest f-stop number, then what's going to happen is you're going to get more and more star. Now, keep in mind that you have to use a tripod for this unless it's super bright outside. And the reason why I suggest using a tripod, because when you go up to f22, you're actually going to be reducing the speed of the shutter. So if you don't have a tripod nearby, no problem. All you have to do is maintain that f22 and go to auto ISO. And auto ISO will actually look after you. It'll take care of you, and it won't let you down because it's going to give you a shutter speed that's appropriate for hand holding. Okay? Excellent question. And Tara, welcome. Mariano, it was a very good answer as well. Thank you. Awesome. Really glad to hear that. Amel, welcome. Pastor Wallace, welcome. We're doing a Q&A session. If you just joined, ask any questions that you want. Thanks, Mark. Boris, I'm happy to help out. Conway, Arkansas. Excellent. Thank you, Pastor Wallace. Appreciate it. Hi, Mark. Hello from Kerala, India. And by the way, I don't know if you were here. We're talking about the Indian chai tea, but that's what I want right now. From Indonesia, stay safe out there. Amel, thank you. I will do that. Dewey's Photography, welcome as always. Hope you learned something. I'll be back at 12:50, says Dewey. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, it's an EOS 90D. I know it will work. Okay, good. Yeah, I would be totally into using that combination of 70 to 200. Now, it's true that lens is expensive. Is there any way that you can get it used? That's my advice, because used lenses hold their value. Never be afraid of getting used. If you're an American, you have great companies like B&H and all those companies. If you're Canadian, you have vistec.ca for getting used. And I don't know any other places. If you're in Japan, you'd go to Ginza. That's the place. And if anyone knows any specific used locations that they like or that they can recommend, please add them in the comment section below for your country. That would be great. Sand 411. Have you ever scanned old photos to digital? If so, what scanner did you use? I have shoeboxes full. Yeah, me too. And what I advise is that, and actually bought one as well. I bought it on Amazon, and the reason, I like to buy local if I can, but sometimes you just have to use Amazon because specialty items don't really, they're not always at your local camera store. So what I got, because I have a ton of slides, is what's called a slide duplicator. And that's a tube that looks like a lens actually. And on the end of that lens, it has a holder for your slides, your 35mm slides, and it has an opaque piece of plastic. And all you have to do is put your camera on a tripod and point the camera at the window. Any window, doesn't matter. And this opaque plastic that goes in the front of this special lens is going to create even light so you can photograph. You can actually photograph your slide, and it works really well. And the reason why it works well is because you have a 24 or 20 or 22 megapixel digital image from that slide. Now, let's just say that you have negative film. Then what I would suggest, by the way, this unit works for negatives as well, but I also see on Amazon a really cool little device. It's made by Polaroid. It's only about this big. And what it does is you just keep feeding in slides and feeding in negatives, and it scans. It's almost like an assembly line. And all you need to do is just, wait for a rainy day that's stormy, and you're just going to feed slides all day, and they'll just keep spitting them out. And granted, you only get about 3 megapixels, so it's not the greatest resolution, but it's quicker than that solution that I just gave you about the lens tube. So the third option is what we call a film scanner. And this is a flatbed scanner, and they're made by Epson, they're made by Canon, and a couple others. And what they have is a tray to place either your slides or your negatives on, and you just press a button and you have your images. And this is a really good way to batch them. You can do a couple at once, if I recall. I haven't used them in a long time, but those are also good because the scanner acts as a normal scanner as well. So that means that you can do both slides, negatives, and prints. So my estimation is that probably the scanner option, the picture scanner, is probably the best bet because it allows for prints as well as slides and negatives. So you have all those three, and those will get you where you need to go. Great question. Schmeps, Fit, welcome. Hey everybody. So if you just joined, we're doing a Q&A session. I have about 15 minutes left, I think. Just tell me where you're from. Love to hear it. Oh, thank you. You're doing a great job, Mark. I appreciate that. Well, I love teaching. I love teaching photography. And photography is both my career. It's been my only career. I started when I was just out of university. And it's also my hobby. And I feel very blessed that I can do what I love. So because I have been given that wonderful gift, I want to share my knowledge with you guys. Thank you. Joseph Corey, welcome. Guntars, Mark, I like macro photography and using macro filter, but I think to go step forward and purchase a macro lens. What would you recommend on budget for Nikon D5600? Yeah, so the D5600 is what we call an APS-C size camera, but the nice thing is the Nikon allows you to use a full frame macro lens. So Nikon has a couple different options in macro, and they're all excellent. However, what I would suggest, and I remember you told me, Guntars, where you're from, but I would suggest, and I suggest this for everybody, is they don't bother buying a new macro lens unless they have the budget for it. I would suggest that a used macro lens is going to be still truly excellent, and I'll tell you why. Has anyone ever told you when you're looking for cars to buy one from, you always get make sure you purchase it from a grandmother who, only drives a couple kilometers every week. Well, a macro lens is hardly ever used. Therefore, on the used market, you're going to get incredible value for a very good price. People don't use them very much. And also, people don't know that you can use a macro lens for normal photography. So, What I advise is that you look for Nikon's, I think they have two currently, and it doesn't matter which one you get, but I suggest you get the one that's best priced and it's used. That's my suggestion. Now, there are third-party companies like Tamron, Sigma, Tokina, Samyang, and another Korean company, I forget. They're good as well, but I would tend to probably look for a used Nikon macro. Now, keep in mind it's full frame. That doesn't matter. Nikon works well using full frame on APS-C cameras anyway, so no problem at all. Hope that helps. Okay, seems to be my wake-up time in Australia to catch you online. That's excellent. Well, I'm glad, because I was hoping that 1 p.m. Toronto time would actually work well for as many different time zones as possible, because I know that my friends from Vancouver and California, so West Coast, this would still be, I don't know, it's not totally early, but then my friends from Europe, this is in the evening probably. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Henry's, yes, Joseph Corey. If anyone's in Canada, henrys.com is really good, and vistech.ca is really good. Arundam Andy. Hi Mark, thank you so much for doing this. Well, my pleasure. And by the way, just to let you know, for those who come back each day or almost each day, Sundays I take off, but I'm planning to do these every day unless there's something that comes up that I can't change. So what I will be doing on my Facebook and my Instagram is, if I'm going live, then I will post that brightly colored text that says Mark is going live or something like that, Toronto time, 12 o'clock. You'll see that. If that is not there, then there was some reason why I couldn't go live today. Okay? And I plan to keep doing this until my province of Canada, my Canadian province, New Brunswick, lifts the quarantine stay-at-home order. And then after that, I'll still probably do them because I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. Okay, I'm from Romania but living in UK. Where are you from? East Coast of Canada. And it's a beautiful place. By the way, if anyone is ever looking for an inexpensive vacation, like especially my American friends, why don't just come up the East Coast, go through Maine, and Maine is lovely, and then explore Atlantic Canada. And we'd love to have you. Atlantic Canada is really beautiful. Okay, Alessandra. Hey Mark, what do you think about giving us a photo challenge and in another Q&A talk about the images? That's a really good idea. Let me put some thought into that, Alessandra. You got me thinking. I like that. Neil, welcome. Mary, welcome. Yusuf, we have about 10 minutes left, so throw some questions out if you have any. Boris, you're as well a good teacher. Some people know photography as well, but their explanation is bad. I appreciate that, Boris. Thank you so much. And you're always very encouraging. So that's very, very well received. I appreciate it. Arundam, Andy. Oh, by the way, Andy from Tübingen, Germany. And I probably did not explain or say that very well. I apologize. And in Germany, when I was just out of university, I was hitchhiking around Europe, and one of the most exciting things was going from Kiel, Germany, because I was on a shipping container boat from Lithuania, and I arrived in Kiel, and I needed to get from Kiel to, I don't know if it was where it was, but anyway, I was hitchhiking, and I was on the Autobahn, or an Autobahn for the first time in my life, and a guy who picked me up was in a Mercedes, a very fast Mercedes, and I've never been that fast in my life. The German Autobahn, what a great memory. Okay, I'm using a Canon 70D, which I bought in 2014. Up till when can I use it? Should I go in for a new digital camera? Excellent question. Okay, so I really want to make sure that no one buys new gear until they feel that gear is holding them back. I'm going to repeat this because it's so important. There's so much misinformation that leads people into debt. Never go into debt for photography. Always max out your gear. Use it as much as you can, and until it's just, until you can't get any more artistic or technical, until you find that this gear, like this camera, is just not, it's not a tool that can help you express yourself. Then you step up and upgrade. So the question is, are you at the point where the 70D is holding you back? I would tend to say no, because I know the 70D and I know it's excellent. And if I had my hands on it right now, I could still get stunning pictures out of that camera, and so can you. So I would say don't bother until the camera breaks down or it needs to be serviced to the extent that it's just not going to be worth it. Then of course you can upgrade. Or if you have the budget, like for example, in our family we have stick to a strong budget. And we have line items, and okay, well, I don't buy photography out of my personal budget. I have a corporation. Let's just say the corporation. I have a budget line item for new gear, and I'm not going to buy new gear unless the current gear that I have is holding me back, either artistically or technically. Here's an example. I absolutely love the the Fujifilm X100T. Now they have the X100V, but it doesn't work for all types of genres. Like, it certainly doesn't work for studio photography because it all has a fixed lens. So that camera has limited use, and it's brilliant for street photography. So I have to have a budgeted line item for gear that would work in studio or that would work at events or whatever. And that's what I do. So I hope that answers your question. The camera is excellent and you can still use it really well. Okay, Mary, if I'm in manual mode and after setting my aperture and shutter value, can I change the ISO if it's dark? I'm still trying to figure out on how to change it on my Canon EOS R. Yes, the answer is yes. If you're shooting manual, then yeah, by all means you can change the ISO if it's dark. Jack it up. Take that ISO way up. Essentially, the reason why I'm saying this is that the EOS R can handle high ISOs really well. It has very low noise, and don't ever be afraid of choosing a high ISO in order to have a fast enough shutter speed to take the picture. It's always better to get the shot with noise than to miss the shot because of a slow shutter speed. So the answer is yes. Okay, I loved Canada when we were there a few years ago. Well, come back. We always love to have people coming up here, especially the East Coast where I'm from. Okay, Photon Cage, welcome. Should I buy a Tamron 24-70 G2 over the previous version? I have a Nikon D610. So with regards to versions, usually what's happening is that the newer version with regards to lens has better computer connectivity and communication between the camera and the lens. Now, there are certain circumstances where the glass is physically changed and it's physically better. And I don't know the exact answer to that because I'd have to do a comparison. But what I would suggest that you do is go to dxomark.com. That's DXOMARK. And I think it's a .com. Or just do a Google search for DxOMark and then type in the Tamron 24-70 G2 and then the G1 and then get a comparison between the two. And because I don't want to lead you astray because I haven't physically used that lens. If it's a situation where you're getting, like 40 or 50% better results, then yeah, maybe you should. But keep in mind that if you're happy with or if you have a limited budget, then just get the Generation 1. Because Tamron make great products, and I'm sure the Generation 1 still produced excellent results. Photon Cage, which camera would you recommend for the beginner or as a first camera? I would suggest the Fujifilm X-T200. Now, if you can actually still find an open box or extra stock or used X-T100, it was still an awesome camera, and you can get it very cheaply. However, the XT200 is is what's out now. Now, please don't confuse this with the X100T. It's very confusing. It was a terrible naming structure that Fujifilm did. That's a totally different camera. That's for street photographers, primarily. So what I would suggest is the XT200 or the XT100, and that will get you into an amazing chip. The sensor is incredible, and it's lightweight, it's small, it's unobtrusive, and you can almost put it in your pocket. It's really great, and I've used it too. So it's coming from first-hand experience. Okay, Neil, what percentage of time are you using iPhone versus digital camera photos? Excellent question. So in the remaining time left, I have about 4 minutes. If you, I would love for you, just all of you, when you hang up from this call, this Instagram Live, if you go back through my last 2 trips, that was Mexico and Japan, it was all iPhone. And the reason being, it was because I was working for a client for an upcoming project where I needed a ton of iPhone pictures. And then the previous trip, which was in Italy, it was all DSLR. It was all my Fujifilm, because I was doing a test on the Fujifilm X-T30, doing a review. And then the trip before that, which was Greece, I was using my Fujifilm X Pro 2. So I would say it's about 50-50, and I'm using different cameras for different end goals, because I'm a commercial photographer. I do writing projects, I do a whole bunch of stuff in the photography world. And the tool that I use for that certain day or that certain trip is entirely based on my end need. I need a ton of pictures from the iPhone 11 right now. So that's the answer. And I'm going to burn through, sorry everybody, there's so many questions here that I haven't got to. Soulful lens. Examples of when to use AFA or AFS. Yes, AFA is autofocus auto. Feel free to use that all the time. AFS, autofocus single, that's the default that most people have. Not everyone has AFA. Most people use AFS. That's a single normal shot. So really, there's not much difference between the two. I would say AFA because that will intelligently know when there's a moving subject in your picture. So choose AFA. That's what I would suggest if you have it. Okay, sorry for everyone. I'm just going to burn through these really quickly because I want to get all of them done before my time runs up. Should I sell my photos online? Says Shahir. Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I don't know too many, like where to do that, to be honest. Shutterstock, maybe. But yeah, by all means, it's fun. It takes a while, but okay. Let's see what we have here. Hi, Mark. What suggestions for a photography bag on a budget? Thanks. Yes, budget bags. Like I said, the 2 bags that I mentioned, Waterfield Designs and Wotan Craft, are amazing, but they are higher end. They're a bit more expensive. So in that case, what is it? Oh, gee, the name escapes me. That bag company, the photo bag company. It's not Tamron. That's the lens company. Oh, do you know what? I'll get you to DM me. Send me a direct message, and I'll reply to you with a link because it escapes me right now, and I want to help you out. So everybody, I have like I'm getting a countdown, so I'm going to really get through these quickly. You seem to love Fujifilm. It is making me want to try them. Yeah, I love them because they're small, light, inexpensive, relatively, super sharp. Fujifilm lenses are amazing, and their sensors are incredible. I absolutely love them. Okay, you're doing an incredible job, Mark, for infusing interest in photography for amateur photographers. Keep going and enthralling. Excellent. Well, I'll come back tomorrow and we'll continue. Welcome to my Calgary friends. So I do have to say goodbye, everybody, because Instagram's going to lock me out any moment. So yeah, I'll check back tomorrow. Feel free, as always, to bring your questions. Have a great day. God bless. Talk soon.